What's up guys, Grand Prix here, and today I'll be going over an early beta version of Twisted Metal's Small Brawl, dated September 27th, 2001, that's actually hidden on the disc of the retail version. This beta can be accessed by extracting the file zzDummy.dat from the Movies folder and changing the file extension to .zip. It also contains two other betas. I should explain that I wasn't able to create a working ISO from the beta files, so all footage was captured using a modded retail ISO that I made by replacing the files in the final version with the ones found in the beta. Now, without further ado, let's get started. Let's begin with a couple files that are in the beta version, but aren't accessible by swapping files. The first one is a file named flag.tim, and contains a memorial for the World Trade Center attacks that occurred in New York City 16 days before this build on September 11th, 2001. If you want to read it, you can go ahead and pause the video. The second file is a bit more interesting. In the cars folder, there is a file called gh.psx. Judging from the naming conventions of the other files, this may be a leftover of Grasshopper, which debuted in Twisted Metal 2 in 1996 and wouldn't return until Twisted Metal Head On in 2005. There doesn't appear to be any other data associated with this apparent cut car character, and replacing another file in the retail version with this one results in either the game crashing or no difference at all. Moving to differences that you can actually see in-game, let's start with textures. In general, the beta textures are in much higher quality than the textures that are in the final. As well, the vehicle selection screen is different, and the car slider from the bottom. The images for the vehicles are also in much lower quality, in contrast to all the other textures from the beta. Moving onward to levels, there are a few that feature some changes from the final version. Starting with Playground Peril, a large sandcastle is in the upper right of the map that isn't there in the retail version. As well, there are railings present on the jungle gym that aren't present in the retail version. Mini Golf Mayhem features the most differences from the final release. To start with, the pyramid is completely different. In the beta version, it is taller, features narrow ramps on each side, and has distinct levels, whereas in the final version, is just a basic four-sided pyramid. In the shipwreck portion of the level, the water texture is completely different than the final version, being much more detailed here. As well, the ship in the middle of the water is angled differently and has a more narrow opening in the smokestack used for launching onto the higher level. Going past the ship, the ramps used for driving onto the green in the final are further back, creating a jump that must be made in order to make it onto the green, which is also designed differently than it is in the final. The last thing to mention about this level is that while battling Trapper in the tournament mode, no parts of the level are blocked off. However, attempting to drive past where the walls would be will just result in you getting reset. In Treehouse Rumble, the signs that are in and on the house section are arranged slightly differently, with some being larger, some being angled differently, and some being both. As well, the lever for the trapdoor is completely different in the beta. The biggest difference in this level is the presence of two construction barriers just outside of the house section that don't feature anywhere in the final. While one can be interacted with and destroyed, the other one doesn't have any collision. Moving on to Gridiron Gore, there aren't too many differences from the beta version to the final version. The only major difference is that the burnable banners at each end of the field are different images. In the final version, they are just flyers for the Halloween party at the shock therapy level and an advertisement for mine. But here, they are actually cheat codes that aren't present in the final version. I should mention that by replacing files in the retail version with the files that are in this beta, the codes won't work. But by using a later beta that I found that is dated October 15th, 2001, the codes actually do work. Now, moving on to the shock therapy level, there are a few relatively minor differences. While on the counter on the outskirt of the level, the books that you can ramp off of are placed slightly differently, being more away from the walls than they are in the final. As well, the beakers on the bookshelves that are destructible in the final aren't destructible in the beta. On that note, the jar that the brain is in isn't fully destructible in the beta, leaving the base on the counter. Now, one very minor difference that I didn't get gameplay of is on the level Now Slang, where the velvet rope that is blocking off the third aisle on the right isn't destructible in the beta, whereas it is in the final. To end off this video, let's take a look at Holiday Havoc, where, in my opinion, the most puzzling differences are. To start with, the lamp on the end table is a more suggestive woman-shaped lamp rather than the generic lamp that's in the final. Also on the end table is a magazine that isn't in the final game. It looks to be an adult magazine in the style of something like Playboy or Hustler called Jugs. Strangely enough, an actual real-life photo of a baby in the frame is right next to the magazine. Obviously, this doesn't appear anywhere in the final version, and is presumably one of the dev's kids. The magazine is also on the table in front of the sofa, along with an Xmas card that doesn't appear anywhere in the final release as well. This card is just a strangely ominous picture of a stuffed monkey with text that reads, "Happy Holidays, Monkey." The last difference in this level is another very confusing difference, that being a rifle hung above the fireplace. Considering that they were going for an E rating, I'm not really sure why they put a gun in the game in the first place, but I can see why they removed it. And with that, those are all the differences that I found between the beta version of Twisted Metal Small Brawl and the final version. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Later.